live. But this is the last broadcast of Teaching in the Morning, and I just want to go to part 2 of the little essentials that I've been dealing with. I believe you'll be blessed, especially at this particular point in time. There's some little secrets that we need to learn that will really help us. Not the big ones, but they are little, but they can really mess you up if you don't have an understanding of them. First Kings 19. We're looking at First Kings 19. I'm going to read from verse 9. This was after the encounter that Elijah had with the prophets of Baal. And he was coming discouraged. And here you read, and he came hither unto a cave, and lodged there, and behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, and said unto him, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel has forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thy altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and brake in pieces the rock before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and went out and stood at the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, what doest thou here, Elijah? Now, what we want to pick up here, there's so many lessons you can pick up here, but there's something that's that I won't easily overlook, that is so crucial in working with the Lord, so vital in working with the Lord. Notice this. The Lord came to him in that cave and spoke to him. He had a manifestation. That's verse 9. He saw God, and the first thing the Lord asked him, what are you doing here? I mean, that should have told Elijah so many things. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. Yes, the speaking of God was in that place, but God was telling him he should not be here. Then he went down, he had a second encounter with the Lord. Bible says something. Now let me read it first. Verse 11, and he said, go forth and stand upon the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by. Notice, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. Before means in the presence of the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. Now, this was an act of God. You saw an act of God, but God was not in the act. Everything you saw, the fire, the earthquake, we were demonstrations of his power, but he was not there. There were demonstrations of his might, but he was not there. You know, what am I talking about? You can see an act of God, but God is not in that act. And you need to understand that. Because many of us are moved by acts of God. But there's something deeper that is here also. You can see a move of God, but you're not meant to be in that part of move. Let me say it again. God can be moving, and you know God is the one moving, but you are not meant to be a partaker of that move. That's strange, right? Many people miss it. And many have missed this several in ministry. Not just in ministry, so many things of God. They see a move of God. God has shown them that he's moving, and they jump into it and they make a mistake. Because they were never meant to be part of that move. We generally assume that if God shows me something, I'm meant to be part of it. No. If God shows you something, he wants you to know about what is happening. You are his child. But the next question is, does he want you to be part of it? That's another question. So to see an act of God does not mean you have an approval of the Lord to step out. You see a clear example of that is 2 Kings 2. Let's look at 2 Kings 2. You have a clear example of this truth. 2 Kings 2, verse 3. Sorry, chapter 2. We're going to read verse 1 to 3. And it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. And Elijah said unto Elisha, tarry here, I pray thee, for the Lord has sent me to Bethel. And Elisha said unto him, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. So they went down to Bethel. And the sons, not this please, and the sons of the prophets that were at Bethel came forth to Elisha and said unto him, knowest thou that the Lord will take away thy master from thy head today? And he said unto them, yea, I know it. Hold ye your peace. So they knew, the sons of the prophet knew that Elijah was going. They understood that Elijah was going, but they were not partakers of that move. They were not meant to partake in it. I mean, many ministers would have jumped in. Many ministers would just tag along. Elijah, you're not going alone. I'm going to go with you. Elisha, let's join up. We're teaming up. Now we're teaming up. Every step Elijah made, they'll be right there beside Elisha. And they would have made a mess of the move of God. They would have stood in the way of God, hindered the purpose of God. Why? Because they decoded what God was doing, but they didn't ask, am I meant to be part of it? That's why I see people undertake projects that they shouldn't undertake. And they begin to wonder, but God showed me, yes, God showed you a project. God showed you that this particular project is something He wants to do, but He didn't tell you that you are meant to be part of it. He didn't show you that you are meant to be part of that move. These are little things, but many resources have been wasted, lives have been wasted, ministries have been lost, directions have been lied, because many people pursue that act of God without asking. In other words, you will need to, if you want to walk with God, you will need to inquire deeply from His presence. You will need to inquire again and again and again and ask critical questions. And one of the questions you will need to ask, is it meant for me? Or am I receiving something that's meant for my brother? Or am I just meant to be a support? Or am I just meant to back up in prayers? But that doesn't mean I'm meant to be. They want to lead that charge. So Elijah saw the ark of God, acts of God, but he knew God was not there. Can you decipher that? How was Elijah able to spend that time with the quiet time? That time he has spent years in the presence of the Lord. Because he has become so familiar with the Lord that he could know that this is the art, God is not there. There was no deep voice. There was no mighty earthquake that spoke to him. But there was a know within him, an understanding of the divine within him that guided him and prevented him from committing error at that critical point in time. You need it. And like I've said it last Wednesday, what will build it? This year, your quiet time, build it. Then do something. Ask God questions. Spend time in His presence. There's nothing like it. God bless you, and Happy New Year in advance.